if our gangsters get in this country.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I remember. I mean, current situation.
That's okay. No, hopefully I didn't break the lens.
You did not break the lens.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was audio description. It was just short about a visually impaired man, and I was just introduced. I was recording. I was just a supporting actor.
Okay, do we have? Hello. Yes. Okay, great. So we're gonna have some conversation here, and we will certainly open it up for people to make their own comments. But I mean, I think that this film was made in what year?
Well, it came out in 95.
95. I mean, I can't think of a film. I mean, first of all, my question is, do you feel that its treatment of indigenous character and culture was authentic and, truthful and solid?
Well, I was the primary cultural advisor in this film. Also, although I did find, because I wasn't really familiar with, the ceremony, especially the peyote ceremony, which, I participated in up in Lame Deer, Montana, like I did in Powell Highway, but I never ingested. And so I wanted someone to stand by me that had, and it was a woman out of, from the Native American Church, which is primarily a peyote-based ceremonial. So outside of that, I was the one who did all the cultural advisement. I was fascinated with the potential because I saw in the program that I speak Cree, or that Cree is spoken, but there's like 7 languages spoken, indigenous languages in the film, sometimes a word or two, and but I really worked hard at trying to present that multilingual version of
not translated also,
Native American,
Hello. Yeah. Yeah, I think. Well, I think it pays off. I think it's really strong, and I can't think of another film prior to this that provided as much sort of cultural presence for indigenous characters. I mean, I think this was still early in the game at some level in terms of indigenous people showing up in theatrically released narrative film. But I think this film in some ways broke ground and took it further. I mean, there's sort of more happening here than there is in Dances with Wolves or Black Robe or, my film, Where the Rivers Flow North. I mean, I think that, and of course, we had not come to the point with Chris Eyre of having made, for the first narrative film that was actually directed by an indigenous filmmaker, which was Smoke Signals, which you're also in.
Right. I'm so proud of this film because it's the only American film ever to win the European Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. That was our biggest moment, and Johnny and I, Jim couldn't make it, so he sent Johnny and I to accept it.
Yeah.
And all we did, it was in Berlin, and the wall had come down.
Yeah.
So all Johnny and I did, along with his entourage and my partner, was go around looking for the best Wiener Schnitzel in Berlin. And we found it in East Berlin, of course.
I read one review that said Johnny Depp, when he was still an actor and not simply a sort of spectacle of sensation and confusion and a number of other things. But what was it like to work with him?
We really took our time getting to know each other, but then we became really bonded. He went on to do Johnny Brasco after this film. I threw a birthday party for him, although I think his birthday's in June. I don't know how people told me his birthday was in December, but I threw a big cast crew party for everybody, and I think it was a small town, Ashland, Oregon, maybe, and I took over the county barn or the county fairgrounds, and it was a wonderful time. And then we jammed music because I'm a player, and I used to jam with Johnny all the time. He had a steel guitar flat, and I play harmonica, so we got to know each other a lot through music, and kind of blows me away to see him play with Alice Cooper now all over the world. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
He did introduce me, a wonderful story. While we were in Berlin, Johnny asked me if I'd like to be Dr. Gonzo in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which, of course, Hunter S. Thompson wrote that book, and I knew the book, and I said, "Why, yeah, sure, you bet," you know. And so he got me to the University of Kentucky, Lexington, on Hunter Thompson Day at the university, and that was an amazing story. It's a really complex story, but in the end, they hired Benicio del Toro. They fired Alex Cox, who I'm sure I've worked with Alex as an actor. He's wonderful. I would have loved to have worked with Alex, but they fired Alex and they hired one of the Monty Python fellas.
Yeah,
And then it all changed.
Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do with Alex Cox?
We did this wonderful film. It's kind of about 15 versions of animation on a really bizarre little movie we shot. I was reading the script and saying, well, this is really Southwest. I can't imagine why I'm going to Boulder, Colorado to shoot this. But, it was all on green screen. The whole thing's on green screen. And Alex and I had some scenes together there. But I'd have to think about it. Quantum Cowboy.
Okay.
Wonderful film, actually. Really bizarre, but worth a watch.
Yeah.
Lily's in it too. Lily Gladstone and Kyle Gordon.
Yeah, Alex Cox did Repo Man, Walker, Sid and Nancy.
Yeah. Lots
Sort of
good
an
movies.
interesting filmmaker.
And a great actor. I was impressed with his acting chops.
And how about Robert Mitchum? What was he like?
That was Robert's last film.
Yeah.
And Jim, at the end of while he was cutting it, he had finished the cut, and I think this was post. The film was originally 2 hours and 20 minutes, but I'll never forget, we showed it at Cannes. You got the big red carpet. It was my first time. I think Sharon Stone and who played Pinocchio's dad? Martin
Short? No.
Pinocchio. Wonderful actor, old timer. What's he got? Not Martin Sheen, no.
Landau?
Martin Landau, is that it?
Yeah.
He played Pinocchio's dad, right? Anyway, he was sitting with Sharon Stone behind me. It was Jim, Johnny Depp, the wonderful cinematographer who...
Yeah, Robbie Mueller.
Oh my God, he was so special.
Work. Yeah.
We'd go to a location and Robbie would go to Jim. He goes, "Look how beautiful that is." You say, "Let's shoot this way." I just love that guy. And I ended up doing a commercial, the first commercial of my career last season, which really helped me because I was down and out, and that saved my financial life. And Robbie's from Amsterdam, which is Holland, right?
Yeah.
And so the guy who directed, or who shot Oppenheimer and won the Academy Award was like the mentor. Robbie was his mentor, and he still takes care of Robbie's family and stuff. He's also from Holland. And he shot Oppenheimer, and I had worked with him 2 days before the Academy Awards. And I was so happy that he won the Academy Award that year. And it was so cool to work with him. And he was such a fan of mine that I think my presence in the commercial took over the young girl. There was a young lady was kind of the star of the commercial, but I was somehow made the star of the commercial just because of his passion for me. Having worked with Robbie, and we talked about things, stories about Robbie and stuff. So it was,
Actually, is Amsterdam the Netherlands? Yeah.
it was not Holland, yeah.
It's the same. Okay, right.
Yeah, there you go.
Right,
Thank you.
just like the United States is the same as Canada.
Well, Vermont, same as
51st state,
Canada.
right. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. Robbie Mueller worked with like Fassbinder, right?
Yeah, he worked with everybody.
And he's worked, maybe Scorsese did a picture with him as well. But anyway,
Live and Die in L.A. is one of my favorite.
yeah, he's just a great cinematographer. And I think that the cinematography in this film is really exquisite.
Yeah, it is.
The black and white is so rich, you know, it's really just so precise in how it's rendered in the film.
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton.
He was riding Sling Blade at the time. He was across the next cottage from me at a certain point, and we were in Arizona, and Billy was riding Sling Blade, so that was so cool to see him make that film. And Iggy Pop, he was a riot to hang around with Iggy Pop. I drove him around all the time because he never had wheels, and I always got a car and stuff. And one time when I'm riding Iggy back home, and he got a call, and he's going to go do a Western in, I think it was Mexico or Spain. No, I think it was in Spain. And then they called him back 10 minutes later and realized, oh, the film's in Spanish. But he was bilingual, so that was cool.
So,
Yeah.
what did you see as the sort of important themes in this picture that you guys were trying to express?
Well, it was acid Western, right? It was, you know, we grew up with John Wayne and all that.
And then there was the spaghetti Western, the Sergio Leone pictures, and this was after that, and it has a touch of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the idea, I think. But we were trying to retell the Western from an indigenous point of view, which was so brilliant. I mean, we always got the one-sided history, just like we're getting more so now than ever, right? I mean, it's pretty pathetic, but it was a wonderful attempt to kind of revision American history, especially the Western.
Yeah, I mean, this notion of white men killing each other, you know, for one thing. I mean, Johnny Depp arrives, he doesn't get his job as an accountant. He sort of has nothing else to do. I mean, at some point, instinctively, you say, well, maybe he'll go to work at the factory or something like that. But no, he really just, you know, doesn't have really a purpose other than being on the frontier and being hunted and sort of, you know, retaliating. I mean, it's sort of an interest, and there's this. I remember taking a trip.
It was really about William Blake, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
And his work and his poetry and his art. I mean, he's the only one that made sense to nobody because he could see that trees and us were the same, that were related to nature. And that's why nobody took to him. And when he discovered William was in the wrong world, the journey was to get him back to the spirit world.
Yeah.
But I don't think Johnny ever realized that. I mean, I know Johnny did. I'll never forget one time he was really late because he was jetting off. He was going with the model, beautiful model at the time,
Kate Moss.
Kate Moss. So he'd take off with his private, you know, get a private jet and go wherever she would be. And one time we were shooting a course up in the Redwoods, which you don't get a lot of light. It was late fall, and Johnny showed up like real late, you know. And he was so, everybody was kind of, we're all there in the Redwoods waiting, you know, and he never came. And when he finally did come, he said, next time I do a movie, I'm going to read the script for sure. So, you know, he was kind of there, but it was perfect, you know. Whatever he gave us was wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought, and I love the guy because he's got a big heart, John.
He has a very open quality in terms of his appearance on the screen, especially in this film.
Yeah, he gets a lot of bad rep, and it hurt me to see him go through all that, but you
Yeah,
know,
well,
he's a handsome boy. You know, those kind of guys get in trouble.
You know.
How did, I mean, this is your first film with Jim Jarmusch.
Yeah.
And he reached out to you to cast you, or did you seek it through your agent? I know you've never been real big on agents, but how did you make the connection?
I don't know. Jim said, I don't know. He never did send me the script. And I said,
You would have read it.
I said, just come up. You know, I just wanted to get him out of the city, right?
Yeah.
What do I know? I was a fan of Jarmusch I was at the beginning when the Toronto Internet used to be called the Festival of Festivals in Toronto. So I was exposed to Jarmusch from the first film of his career.
Stranger Than Paradise.
I was a young actor in Toronto, and the festival had just started, and all of us actors knew how to get, you know, through that festival with no charge. Lots changed, of course. It's become one of the biggest. It's going to have a film market next year, so it's going to be huge next year as well. But it's one of the biggest festivals these days. And so I was familiar with Jim's work, and so I said, well, come on up. I was living out in the bush. I had my own reservation, I like to say, because I was meeting some success. So I had 400 unadulterated acres of land in central Ontario with my own lake, and I was farming. I had horses. I was off the grid. I was totally, I shopped for water. I called the end of the world back in the 80s, you know, and that's where me and my wife, who wrote Powell Highway, went. And so we invited Jim up, and he actually did come. He came up. He had to fly to Toronto and then drive about 3 hours to get to us in the middle of the bush. And he came, and I took him on a walk to that lake, and that's when he told me the story, you know. So,
of Dead Man.
Yeah.
And so it was an obvious next step in that case.
Yeah, and then we just agreed and said, yeah, that sounds great, you know. And of course, I was very portly at the time, and I thought, well, you know, being exposed to England and stuff, being held in a cage as a kid, you know, I was a big kid anyway, I guess, growing up in the bush with my family as a Crow and Blackfoot Indian. And so I just thought, well, this might work, you know, and I didn't work to kind of get real fit. And then I began to think about our own Indian culture, you know, even like in that redwood forest, when I start thinking, you know, we have 49s, which are becoming, you know, there's powwows. How many have ever been to a powwow here? Yeah, not many.
Yeah.
So we have powwows, which are, you know, drum, song, dance, family, relations, friends. It's a beautiful event, but it's very social. It's not a ceremonial type event where only, you know, the people get to go to the ceremonies a lot of times. But the Mandawan Lodge, for instance, opened itself up for non-Indian people to come and be a part of it, which is great. But so it was like the whole film to me was like a ceremony. And so I had to prepare myself to get him back to the spirit world. So after Jim and I used to argue all the time about, well, dead man, and then I realized, well, I'm the dead man too, right? Like, I thought that we were supposed to inherit the earth, right?
Right, yeah.
Isn't that your story as it goes, you know, in the Bible, the meek inherit the earth? Well, that's us, you know, that's Indians, you know, in North America, come on. And so we had discussions, heated discussions about this all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. And then I said, you know, it was maybe 2 years after, I'll never forget, we were showing the film, I think it wasn't that much later, but that was at the San Francisco Film Festival, and the film played there, and I'll never forget this guy, hippie guy, come up, hey, Jim, it's a great film, you know, but the squares won't get it. The squares won't get it, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, he went on to do that Forrest Whitaker film, and he said, Gary, I'd love you to come back as nobody. And I said, yeah, damn right, man. He's still alive, you know.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Because I argued this
You're
film
great
could have been
in
shot
Ghost Dog.
contemporarily.
It's not
you
as
know.
big a part, but you're fabulous in Ghost Dog
Yeah,
also.
yeah. So we've stayed friends all that time.
Mhm. How does he work with actors?
Oh, he's wonderful, you know. I think it was, I did a film in New York with John Schlesinger. Do you remember him?
Sure. Big director.
Yeah. Martin Sheen was in it, and Canadian actress was the lead. Can't think of the film, but, you know, John used to bring us in every morning and have meetings about the scene. I didn't have a major role or nothing, but, you know, he brought me in and my fellow actor who was playing with me this scene, a moving scene of moving their furniture into the house, and Schlesinger would bring us in and we'd discuss the scene, you know, about everything. And Jim was like that for every morning. We'd
Yeah.
get together and talk about the day's work. And so you really appreciate that. I mean, and he loves rehearsing. Of course, we never rehearsed much, but, you know, he's a wonderful guy to work with. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's just a fun guy,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
You can tell just watching him walk around with his white hair. He's got such a status, you know. He's a wonderful
Yeah,
guy.
he's a great director and has not had an easy time in terms of financing.
No. And this film, there's not one American penny in it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, a lot of
all
Japanese
Japan
money.
and
Yeah.
Germany and Italy and
Yeah,
France.
Jarmusch is arguably, because he deals so specifically with an interpretation of American culture that's really quite important to look at. You know, a little bit existential, a little bit, but it's historical, it's cultural, it's, you know, contemporary. You know, I mean, it just has a lot of different angles to it, and yet he's not ever really gotten American money.
No. In
But it
fact,
persists.
Harvey Weinstein killed the distribution here in this country.
Mm-hmm.
It made it an art house film. It was supposed to get a big release,
Sure.
and that was a setback.
Yeah. Yeah. People have questions and comments, things you'd like to, yeah.
I'm curious, from an acting perspective, as you geared up for this film, specifically for you, going into it, was there any way that you had forethought of, like, this is, as an actor, I want to grow in this way, whether it be from a technical perspective or just on any level? And then additionally, when you and Johnny would do a scene, was there any way that y'all would kind of play it to get into the rhythm of things, or any preparation that y'all had?
No, there was never any. Well, we might run the scene one time at some level, but
Sure.
I don't even remember that. No, you know, this is 94, I guess. I'm 20 years in as a performer. I got everything I need, I feel.
Sure.
It's just getting the material down, and I wanted to be really respectful, especially to the poet, William Blake. And, you know, I love poetry. I write poetry myself, and so I was just very sincere about that. And I had a great partner who was by my side at the time, helping me too. So as long as I got some help with me, you know, I never had an acting coach or nothing or stuff, or a dialogue coach, stuff like that, because I'm dealing in my own languages.
Right.
So no, I was always just there and trying to be there for Johnny too, really trying to bring the most out of him.
Mm.
That's
Give him
my
the
scheme
most.
as an actor.
Yeah.
You know,
Generosity.
give way to the other actor.
Yeah.
And,
It's generous.
yeah, well, I've had an actor recently, David, I can't think of his name now, comic actor out of New York. Used to work with, I guess he had a twosome, but he couldn't even look at, because he's a comedian, he's not an actor. He couldn't even look at me when he did his lines and stuff. You know? And so you're really trying to work, well, how can I help this man
Sure.
give his best, you know?
Right.
And so that's more where I'm at. You know, I'm not about
the best performances are performances that are responsive to what they're getting from the other actor.
Absolutely.
Half of acting's listening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as Meisner would say, or Michael Shirtliff, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard of those
generous.
guys.
You have to be generous. No, you know. I mean, it reads on screen so
Yeah,
easily.
good.
So
You know, somebody else who was
Good
deeply
question.
Thank
affected
you.
by William Blake was Allen Ginsberg.
Right.
Mm.
He was really, you know, Blake was sort of his North Star, for sure. Other questions, comments? Yeah.
As a musician, I wonder if you could talk a little about the music that was in Dead Man, but also,
So good.
have you ever engaged with the soundtrack of a movie?
Well, if you get my album, I have some at the room. It was my seventh CD. Neil and Johnny, after the movie, got together, and Johnny read William Blake to Neil's guitar.
Oh man.
And I thought, hey, what's up with that, right? I mean, I had the love for William Blake. Nobody else did, right, in the film. So my guitar player is a fellow named Derek Miller. Please look him up, a wonderful player. He's like a relative to me from my same community in Ashwaubenon, Ontario, which is near Brantford. And we did a track called Nobody's Reclamation. So that's me doing Blake to my friend's guitar. And I'm taking back what Neil and Johnny did. But no, after the film, well, how we got Neil was, and I went home from my, I believe it was my sister's wedding. I went home for some reason when they went to Nevada, which was good. But I was having a hard time because I was dealing, you know, I learned that men don't deal with death as well as women in a way. I don't know why. I think because we have so much ego and machismo that somehow we can't seem to accept it as easily as women.
We do the birth part. We do the birth
It's got to do with the birth part, that's right. And so I was learning that as a human being. And so I was struggling knowing that I'm going back to my death in a way, you know. And I take everything so seriously when I'm working. And so I was having a hard time, and I'm not sure why I'm telling this story. What was the question again?
Related to
Oh, music, yeah. So while I was gone, everybody went to a Neil Young concert. He was doing a Neil Young show to raise money for an indigenous primary high school that he's done a benefit for years. And Johnny and everybody went to the show, and he got the whole crew to go to the Neil show, and they went backstage after, and the story goes that Jim asked him, Neil, I'd like you to do the music for my film that we're shooting. And Neil said something like, give me a couple of weeks, I'm a little tied up. So I guess that was yes. And I followed Neil, came on that trip to Cannes, and Neil became my best buddy for a long time. I must have got backstage to at least 15, 20 shows.
Wow.
Because his manager was, remember his manager?
I think Neil Young's.
He was a famous guy. He played with that guy that became an icon of industry ownership. You mentioned his name the other day at lunch. Elliot Roberts. There you go. Thank you. Elliot was like my best buddy, and Elliot's gone now, which is a shame. But I think Neil's still with the same management.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to go to the shows. I'd go backstage, and I remember one time at the hall in Wiltern in Los Angeles. My girlfriend and I were there, and we went backstage, and we're on stage left, and there goes Crosby's and Stills up to talk to Neil and say hey. And Neil was up there. I never got there, but a lot of times when he played with the other rock and roll band he played with, Neil Young and Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
So Crazy Horse, I hung out with those guys all the time, jamming with them, and Neil would always be doing yoga or something in his own quarters. And so I saw a lot of shows, but that time I saw Crosby's and Stills go up and say hi, and then we decided, oh, let's go stage right. And so it was over there, and there was just a little guy in front watching Neil. And here it turns around, it's Bob Dylan, you know. It was so cool that, you know, that they're all supporting their buddy, you know, they're all there. And of course, Robbie Robertson was a dear friend of mine too, because he's from my community originally. So it was nice to get into that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and hang out with Neil. And he raised money for an effort. I was trying to radioize Native Canada, Native people in Canada. I had 70% of the country by radio at one point. And Neil, I needed to continue to make money because I wasn't getting no support from the government, and I wasn't getting support from my own people. And Neil did a concert for us and raised $35,000, gave it to us within 4 days for this nonprofit I was working for. So he's the best guy, man. Not enough respect for Neil
Very
Young.
committed, yeah. He has remained true to his vision and not sold out, yeah. He's been touring a lot lately.
Yeah, he's back on the road.
Yeah. Time for one more question. If anybody has one.
No time.
Okay. What's next for you, Gary?
I'm going to go shoot a film in Chicago next week called The Patient. It's an amazing little small budget film, female written, female directed, young director.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, how many seen Reservation Dogs?
Television, yeah, it's fun.
You know, the mother of the main lead guy is my daughter in this film. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a wonderful actress playing my wife,
Mm-hmm.
Chicago theater actor, very talented young lady. Well, she's not that young, but like me, my age. So that'll be a really dynamic shoot. And then I'm going to the Toronto International Film Festival for a couple of things. Yeah.
I've worked with Gary four times, and of all the actors I work with, I mean, Gary can always be relied upon for his imagination. I mean, which is, we'll get a first take, and they're generally always great, interesting, open up new space, and we'll do a second take just because we're set up, right? The camera's set up. Let's do one or two more, and it's always different. It's always varied, and so what you're really looking for, when I speak with students, I say what you're looking for is actors who have range and flexibility. You know, it's not, you know, how good are they in an audition. It's how much ground can they cover. Where can you take them? Not knowing what's right, but just wanting to see what's unexpected. And Gary is really among the very best when it comes to bringing that imagination to the moment and to the performance and to the character. It's always great. And he's in my next movie that we'll be releasing next summer, which is an adaptation of George Bernard Shaw's Major Barbara, but Gary's great in it. So anyway, well, thanks so much, Gary. Gary's an honoree. He'll be getting his
Trophy.
well, of sorts, tonight. Yeah. And so, what a pleasure to have you here. We wanted Gary to be here last year, and he wasn't able to make it, partly because he had some health issues, but I'm glad to see you in good shape and looking fabulous and making it all the way out here.
Thank you.
You drove.
Yeah, I always
Drive if you can.
I don't like to fly.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay, thank you so much.
You.